Okay, so the four limitless contemplations. May all beings have happiness and create the causes of happiness. May they all be free from suffering and creating the causes of suffering. May they find that noble happiness which can never be tainted by suffering. May they attain universal impartial compassion free of worldly bias towards friends and enemies. Sem jendam je dewatang dewe jutang den pa jujig dungal tang dungal chichutang trawa jujig dungal mepe dewa tampatang mindrawa jujig nering chaktang nitang trawe tang chimpola nepa jujig. These Molly good. Okay, so we're going to go on to part two. Thanks, Denny. Put on your cameras if you can. And Diana, I love to see you. Molly, we're glad you're back. So we're going to part two of if I were a Buddha, how would I behave? And I've got to say to all of you that number one, I'm grateful to be giving these talks because about 20 times in the last week, when I've been in a circumstance, I've been saying, if I were a Buddha, what would I be? What would I do for this situation? And then, I mean, some people have driven me absolutely round the bend this week, okay, really round the bend. And I've really, really used it so much because I've said, how would the Buddha in me behave? The Buddha in me would be very, very, very patient, number one, and very, very compassionate, number two, because lots of time when people are going round and round in circles, they can't help themselves in many ways. So today I want to start with a tiny summary of our last talk and then move through to, I've got Evie here today. She doesn't look so well, Bern, but anyway, let's start with a tiny summary of our last talk and then move through to the teachings on conduct, the behavior of a Buddha. It's most important for you to remember that my emphasis for this talk is to examine the conduct of our awakened nature. But of course, you have to realize that the two aspects that come before the conduct are most important. The view, which is exactly how you see things in your perspective, and the meditation and practice, the practice that you do, those two come before. And each of those two warrant many, many sessions of teaching, but I've given a lot of those in the past. So for our purposes, I'm assuming you know quite a bit about the view of Buddhism. If you don't, you can definitely ask me. And that your practice started with shamatha, where you try to take all the thoughts and you try to not focus on the thoughts, but to bring the mind back mindfully to be able to do it. We're going much past this, but those practices of shamatha in the beginning, you could do shamatha with an object, shamatha without an object. You can have, we used to do in Mahamudra, the stones and the sticks you had to concentrate on, and this you had to concentrate on. To train your mind to be in one place. The shamatha is very important, okay? And then when you've got that and you can control your mind and you are mindful, then you move into vipassana, which is investigating the mind. And there are lots of ways to do this. And the way we're going to do it is to go a little beyond that. What is my mind? Where is my mind? Where is it situated? Where does it come from? How is it? We're going to go past those. But for those of you who really haven't done any of these, I really suggest you read this book. You study it well, the whole book of this Dzogchen, because he starts off with a lot of shamatha practice and how you can do it, and then a lot of vipassana, looking into the mind. So I'm really suggesting those of you that are wonky on those things, because I'm going to the conduct, but you mustn't forget to know that the conduct can only be once you've got the view and the practice, then you can go into the conduct. But because of my circumstances, I went into the conduct because I've done a lot of view and I've done a lot with you, okay? But the view And the meditation practice, whether you're meditating or doing a deity practice, put us in touch with pristine awareness, our pure awareness, or the true nature of our minds. And this is the basis of the conduct. The conduct is non-activity, the hardest thing for us to do, non-activity, pure awareness that just works effortlessly through us. That's what we're aiming for, okay? And it's really important that you do some of those practices, because otherwise you can't just get there, and it's really important. So I'm going to start off with two things. One little story that goes, a student of a wise sage once complained to the master that he'd not achieved the spiritual level and totality of devotion to which he had aspired. That applies to lots of us. What can I do for you, my son? The sage asked. I have thus far been unable to find the key to your heart. The key! The student cried out in anguish. Who needs a key? Use an axe to open my heart if you have to. No need, the sage replied. Your heart is just opened. Okay, now that's a lovely story, because that story is if you've got dedication and you've got devotion and you've got a little enthusiasm, a little enthusiasm. Some of you, when I'm teaching, that's why I hate just seeing your names and not your faces. I know Molly's at the doctor's room, so she can't put her face, but then I can see if you're enthusiastic, because I can tell, because that is so important in this. How enthusiastic are you? I mean, I love the Dharma. I love the teaching. I love teaching you. I love doing my practice. Not always, but mostly I love doing my practice. Sometimes I'm a bit restless and bored like everybody else, but I love it, and I see the true purpose of it. And that's what's called dedication and devotion, and enthusiasm. It's really important, because without enthusiasm, if you've got this deadpan, you're not going to be able to get the conduct. Okay. The other thing I want to quickly do with you is, when COVID started, I don't know if some of you remember, Dudjom Rinpoche gave a talk on the power of the mind. You can probably go back and find that on YouTube. But I was very intrigued with this, because everybody was in a bad way. We've forgotten about COVID. We really have. I mean, I don't even think about masks and everything. But if you look back to the shock that we were all in when COVID first hit, and he gave this talk on the power of the mind. And you don't have to have COVID to actually understand. But he said, in this crisis of COVID, now this time of tragedy, how you think is very primary. And if you know how to relate to the crisis, this is important. You need awareness in every moment. He said that crisis was like a retreat. Now, I'm not going to go into what he said about COVID, because we haven't really got time for that. But I want to tell you a few points that he made about the power of the mind. He said the power of the mind is our essence. Now, listen to his next statement. All our homes are created by the mind. Our caves, our homes, this home of mine is created by my mind for sure. Created before everything, he said, is the power of the mind. With the power of the mind, we've sent people to the moon. We'll have people going to Mars. We've got rockets going. He said, mind is fantastic, even scientifically. He said, the brain with mind is fantastic. But as Buddha, mind is ultimate, primordially perfect, pure, limitless power. It's never negative. That's your important bottom line. It's never negative. We misuse our mind. And he asks, how come we can't cure beings? He said, if coronavirus is there, the cure must be there, but we haven't found it, because we're only using our minds to do a million other things. We're not using it. If we use the power of mind, he said, we'd eat correctly, exercise correctly, and we'd have perfect health. Now, what's important is, he said, everything is a complete sense of mind. If you're content in your mind, you are rich and complete. When you feel secure, you are very powerful. Nobody can affect you. Now, this is so important because so many of us suffer from so much insecurity. When we're changing things, we become like bizarre. And he says you have the power of the mind to actually change things. And he says, you're happy to be there to help people who are scared in the light, to tell them the movie they're living is not real. He says, some of us take our problems seriously and think good things are even a problem. We have a greater capacity to deal with things if we are calm, and that's the power of the mind. Now, what I found fascinating in this talk is he took the 4 last Buddhas and he says, they were all ordinary human beings. And then, well, they weren't really ordinary. They'd already gone quite far. But he said, they started with one activity. One activity. Now think about your spiritual activity. One activity each of these Buddhas started with, and then based everything on that activity. So he said, the first one saw other people tormented in fear. He protected them and took a vow to become like them, to assist them. 8 million years ago, everybody, we're talking about 8 million years ago. He took on his activity. I'm going to protect everybody and I'm going to assist. I'm going to become like them. They're going to see me as one of them, and then I'm going to help them. The second Buddha, he took hard work as his path. He saw a Buddha at that time, Taisitu says, who took on all suffering, and he said, I'm going to take on all suffering. He took on their pain and suffering 6 million years ago. Just think of how long this stuff has been around. What is wrong with us? Why have we not gotten it yet? And then the third one, who was Dipankara, I've heard about him, saw the Buddha, he saw a Buddha who took all of the abusing of other people. So he took on the neurotic behavior of people. He took everyone's negativity and abuse on himself to wake people up. That was his one activity. Unbelievable. Emaho. And the fourth Buddha, Shakyamuni, he saw a Buddha walking with absolutely nothing. He only took offerings that he would eat. He was a beggar. He offered the one plate of food he had to people or to beings who were hungry. And he wanted to become like this Buddha. So that was his activity. Do you not find this fascinating? I think it is so fascinating. What is your activity? Tonight, when you are alone and you are meditating, think about what is your activity, one activity. Well, my activity is that I really want to enlighten people. I see these beautiful teachers who give the most beautiful enlightenment, and they give it to thousands of people, and I'm struggling along, but that's my activity if I were a Buddha, that I want to teach and enlighten people. Now you find your activity, and if you love it, and if you go like that, you will do so well. I cannot begin to tell you. So he says, all these Buddhas started with one activity and then said, may I become like this being. And they use the power of their mind. It doesn't matter how long it takes. All the power of mind. He said, if we all have mind power, how come so many people are suffering? He said, it's all the misuse of mind. And this I found fascinating because last night I was playing the news. I mean, first of all, you don't even see Iran on the news, which is very interesting. But I was playing the news and I thought to myself, I thought to myself, what is this? What do people believe? How many people are really doing beautiful, virtuous deeds, and how many are just following somebody? We all so lost that we look at a charismatic person and we attach ourselves to them. He says, but if one person goes in the wrong way, it leads to too many minds also going in the wrong way. Have you ever seen how people believe liars as long as they're charismatic? Now, I feel this is so important in looking at the conduct of a Buddha, because you look on the thing, he says, if you don't know that you have a beautiful, ultimate, perfect mind, then there's ego, self, ignorance. As long as I call myself I, very seriously, neurotically, he says, then it is ego. He loves the word neurotically. It's one of his best words. He always uses neuroses. He learned that from the Westerner. What did he know about it in Tibet? Never heard of it before, but anyway. He says you could do scary things with I, abusing your power, and people get afraid. They think that person is so special that people become deluded, and everybody supports this delusion. And then they play God, and then a war starts, and people believe they need to kill because that's what's right to do because of what we believe. I mean, if I look at some religions, they say, we believe in the end of this, the end of that. I'm not talking about it in open, because otherwise then everyone will have a different opinion. Let's just talk about it generally. It's really important that we understand this. And he says, the power of the mind, then humans start killing, stealing, cheating, comes from the deluded mind. The power of the mind went wrong. And the real power of the mind is compassion, our nature. And this kind of negative ego, he says, will not last. It will not last, the negative ego, okay? And he says at the end, it'll be for nothing. Death's for nothing. Individually, we can reach that Buddha plane, taking responsibility for ourselves to reach it. It'll take a long time for groups of people to reach Buddhahood, but we can each help some people, a few hundreds, thousands. We'll make them aware of the positivity and the result of taking the power of mind and using it. He says, even a wolf, when a wolf needs meat, when a wolf is desperate, he won't eat its babies. And he says, that's compassion. The wolf won't eat its babies even when he's starving. He's already born with compassion. We don't survive by aggression. With compassion, we'll survive and have what we need. We have to help people to be compassionate. And he said, all my teachings are from my guru and the texts that I've read. I think this is very important. Somehow or another, I've got these folders and folders and folders of papers and notes and lectures and everything. So when I'm starting a new series, then I start looking, then I pull this out. I don't know how it happened. I think it's by the power of Guru Rinpoche in me, but then I pull out. But I thought I've got to give that because it's so relevant to the conduct of being a Buddha, that you change your mind, you change your mindset, you really decide you're going to be that Buddha and you're going to change it irrespective. You've got it already in you. So to summarize part one that we were doing, we were discussing, this is a long summary, starting to behave as a Buddha when we have every challenging situation where we would see nasty thoughts, words, and actions as pure perception, as pure expression of our essence, self-appearances. They liberate of themselves if you don't go and catch on to them, analyze them, work with them. If you just let them be, they self-liberate. He says it's learning to rest in open, pristine awareness, devoid of our usual activity. So last week we were really talking about Dudjom Rinpoche advising that this activity is a profound, radical not doing. It's a not doing. Okay. But because of our conceptual minds, it's really hard for us to not do. We're so busy doing, it's really, really hard. And so we have to practice, read, get instructions on how to start unveiling that is in us. But actually, it was always there. We just moved away from it and believed we are solid, sentient beings. Now, it's really important because in this book, where Alan Wallace is talking about Dudjom Rinpoche's beautiful text, which I'm going to give you some little things from the text. And he's talking about that, and he's also using Gutral Rinpoche's explanations and all kind of thing. He challenges whether we are sentient beings. So like if you go, well, if I'm not a sentient being, then what am I? As soon as you say that, then you're a Buddha, because you're either a sentient being or a Buddha. And the only difference is a sentient being is ignorant and doesn't know, and a Buddha is wise and aware and knows. That's the only difference. It's really an amazing thing. Okay, and then we just started talking about the two approaches for understanding the nature of awareness. The one is that elaborate approach. You've got to get lots of knowledge. You've got to get analysis. You've got to debate. These monks debate. But I have to say I laugh, because whenever I've been in India, or even, well, Sammy Ling, you don't see them so much debating. But in India, you see all these young monks debating. But as soon as they finish debating, what happens? On the phones, they're on the phones, typing in and getting all the same information as me. I laugh, because how does it go with the phone? What are they Googling on their phone? Are they looking at spiritual things? Or are they talking about their friends and their Facebook and what's happening in the world? Well, that's modern monks today. The old monks just really debated and used it and spent many, many years like that, investigating, and thoroughly finding that everything is equally empty of an inherent nature. And so realizing great emptiness. So when you've got conviction about this, you see, if you think, well, it's all blah-de-blah. Of course I'm a sentient being, and I'm a solid sentient being. Feel me, see my illnesses, see my ailments and everything. I'm a solid human being. If you think that, and you think you exist in of yourself, not as in many interdependent causes, then you believe you're a sentient being and you're in ignorance. The minute you challenge this, you're going to another level of actually being able to be. And he says, optimally, you turn then to meditation practice, optimally with the basis of shamatha, so that the full benefits, complete integration and wisdom of vipassana, looking and investigating the mind, can actually happen. It's very important. But that's one approach. But the second approach is realizing, knowing that all appearances arise as the aspects of the mind. And this is the approach taken by Karma Chagme Rinpoche in his book, Spacious Path to Freedom. He writes, and I told you this last time, the Geshis, they study, those are the ones that get doctorates and so on, the Kempos and the Geshi. They study for years and years. They do the Heart Sutra, they do the Madhyamika, they devote themselves and everything, and then they try and cut through conceptual elaboration from the outside. So they reason it right the way through. He says, that way is difficult to learn, understand, and know, and to realize. And many fail to realize this meaning. They didn't go beyond conceptual understanding. So he says, if you've got Vipassana without having a stable mind of shamatha, it's like a rocket without a lift off, and the pull of delusion pulls us back. You've got to have both the shamatha and the vipassana, and you have to put these teachings into practice, achieve the shamatha vipassana. Once you have achieved those, and some of you can go straight because you did it before, then you go to your deity practice. What's the deity practice? Is it about making yourself Chenrezi, making yourself? No. The deity practice is about generation and completion. What is that? That is, you come from emptiness, you create yourself as this perfect specimen, this Buddha specimen, whatever it is. You feel the qualities of that deity, everything about it, and then it goes back into the emptiness again. Now, training in this really takes you, boom, past the other basic things. Because once you know this, if you're just doing it because you do a deity practice and you think, oh, well, if you're not doing it with the actual emptiness, out of the emptiness comes this beautiful creation, Chenrezi, Amitabha today, and Amitabha was Chenrezi as well in today's things, Guru Rinpoche, Tara, whatever practice you're doing, and then feel what they are like. Feel what that deity, the qualities of that deity, the activities of that deity, and then recite the mantra, and then go back into emptiness. Now, when you do this, you skip those other processes. Now, if you go even further than that, as I taught you in Yeshe Tsogyal's beautiful prayer that Guru Rinpoche gave you, if you go further than that, then you come to Trekchor and Togal, that Karen was giving you her beautiful explanation last week. But if you look at that, it goes past those other practices, because now you are actually cutting through all the blah in Trekchor. So sometimes it's given as a description of a whole lot of sticks bound together. You know, when you used to play pick up sticks with children. So you put them all in a bundle like this, and then you go, yop, you let it go, and all the sticks go all over, and then the child's got to pick up each stick with the main stick, you know. Trekchor is like that. You take all the sticks of what you've believed, of what you've thought of in all the time. You've already done lots of those practices, sometimes in another lifetime, and you cut through. And what are you left with? Pure, spacious, pristine awareness. Now, pristine awareness is not just plain nothingness, emptiness. It's emptiness with a nature. What is that nature? That nature is, Halati, luminosity. It's awakening. It's luminosity. It's clarity. It's pure expression. Now, when you learn and when you're privileged enough to get the toggle instructions from a master, once you have actually got that pristine awareness, then in the toggle practice, you actually visually see the beauty. Everything that you see in this practice is luminous, beautiful colors. And then eventually, when you've started seeing that, it becomes deities and mandalas and pure lands. And you see how it's really supposed to be. The creation is supposed to be this pure luminous thing, which you are learning and training in the deity practice. When you do the shamatha and the vipassana and you do it more intellectually, then it's quite different, because you have to make a jump from there. You have to make a jump from there. But those two practices or the end of Mahamudra, or the 6 yogas of Naropa. These are practices that take you a little beyond. But those on the Ati Yoga are the highest practices. Now, it's not for everybody. Some people really want to know that they do A and they do B and they do C, and this is what they're supposed to come up with. And if you do, you can go to Taisitu's Mahamudra courses, because you start right from the very beginning. When I went to Mahamudra classes, I was breathing all the time because I was irritable, because I wanted to go beyond. But that was probably because I probably did 100 years of all that practice in many, many lifetimes. I just wanted to see what was the truth. But that's not everybody. And it's really okay to go step by step by step by step. And on Mahamudra, you go through all the steps, and then you go through all the different levels of bodhisattva levels. And then eventually you come to the same spot as you come with the other. But it's a long process, maybe a few lifetimes or whatever. And it's really up to those of you who can cut through internally rather than externally. First the view, then the practice, then the conduct, eventually the fruition. You actually become that. The conduct is spontaneous once we get the other two. And mine is about the conduct, but we have to cut through the word. I don't know if you use this word very often, reification. Reification means solidity, solid. Nothing that you see is solid. Everything is made up of interdependent causes. If this falls away, then the thing falls away. Whatever happens falls away. So it's really important that you understand that everything is interdependent causes, except your true nature of mind. Pristine awareness has always been there, will always be there, and in the future is always there. There are no causes. Nothing takes it away. Even if you're a murderer, it doesn't take it away. You'll have to pay on a relative level, but whatever you are, nothing taints that nature of mind. So surely this is what we want to find in our lives. I mean, David, if you don't do it in this life after having all these opportunities and everything, then I'm going to kick you when you come into the Bardos. Okay.
Well, I was listening to you talk now, it just brought back to mind my experiences under the influence of hallucinogenics over the years. And on San Pedro and ayahuasca in South America, and on magic mushroom, psilocybin at various places and times, I've had absolute glimpses and experiences of a lot of what you're talking about. And a lot of it was the heavens and the hells. So I'm aware of what my mind can generate that is actually really beautiful on the one hand and very scary on the other when it's under the influence of hallucinogenics. So it actually it also makes me think about the archetypal intelligence and consciousness we actually have in our subconscious. Because having had a glimpse of that, it's just so clear to me that we are carrying with us intelligence which is beyond our actual ken.
You know what you're saying is absolutely vital, okay, for a lot of reasons. You see, it's interesting because Lama Lena, and Karen will tell you more, she spends a lot of time with Lama Lena. She talks about people taking hallucinogens. She says, you've taken this, you smoke weed, you do this, you do that. For me, I've never taken hallucinogenics. I'd rather go the way of really allowing my nature of mind to show me these visions, and it will take longer than a hallucinogenic. But, I'm not sitting in condemnation. I am saying that all the people that I have counseled, that have actually, even ones, some of them that smoke weed on a regular basis all the time. And the weed never is enough. After a while, they need more and more and more of other things. Okay. But what I see is a slackening of the mind, over the period of taking it. Okay, so it really affects the body. That's point number one. It affects the body, and then you're exhausted afterward. When you do toggle practice, you're awake and alive and full of everything. And when you come back from that, you're really ready to give out whatever you do. Whereas when you take drugs, you really might have a great experience or a terrible one, which teaches you, but then it affects the body. That's number one. Number two, which is really important, and you can listen to my series on understanding illness, but number two, which is really important, is that if you go to the imprints that cause people to take the drugs, if you go to the imprints that were the creator of them taking drugs, most of it is based, and I'm going to teach that tomorrow night, on fear, on not liking yourself, on having negative self-images, on abuse from childhood, on all these sort of things which cause people to escape. It's more an escape than actually a session. I'm sure if people went and had one magic mushroom and had some kind of spirit, I have had people who've had that and come and say to me, Melanie, I want to bring you a magic mushroom, because everything you're talking about is I've had that experience. So then I go, well, that's fine, but why would I need to have a magic mushroom if I'm having that experience without taking the drug? Why would I need to affect the body? But more than that, so I'm not saying if you had one experience and it gave you an idea of what it was, and then you decided to be motivated to really do your practice to get there without the use, that would be, but human nature's not like that, you know that. So the imprints that cause people to become addicted to drugs are the thing that's got to be sorted out. So it's complicated because it's all in the human mind. But what you're saying does make a lot of sense to me. And what is interesting is that the same Karma Chakme Rinpoche said, cutting through conceptual elaboration from the outside is like wanting dried pine wood and drying it by cutting off the pine needles and branches one by one. So that is so difficult. In contrast, cutting through conceptual elaboration from within, knowing that you've got it, is easy because it's like cutting the root of the pine tree so the branches dry up naturally. It's a very interesting analogy. Now, what I want to do is burn. I want that one verse. I don't mind if you put the whole of Dudjom Rinpoche's thing, but I'm not going to do. My idea of this teaching was not to teach you line by line like I've been doing with other things. My idea came because I wanted to know, how could you react like a Buddha? So, but the one verse of his text, it's a very short text, very, very short. If you see, just show them how short it is from the top, Burn. That's the whole text. Okay, so it's very, very, very interesting. Okay, but just go to the verse I want, that 1, 2, 3, 4, there. The one I want is emptiness and luminosity, which is what we're talking about. Okay. Emptiness and luminosity, says Dudjom Rinpoche, are the vital draw-war law. You may say, what's that? Do not seek it elsewhere. Just this naked, self-emergent, pristine awareness is the great, omnipresent Lord of samsara and nirvana. Return to this great primordial place of rest. And just to go right to the last paragraph, because I will be using that word familiarization, he says, in this way, if you achieve stability through familiarization is when you begin to know, you begin to experience, you go back to doing it again, even if your mind takes you in another direction. In this way, if you achieve stability through familiarization, once all phenomena with characteristics have been overwhelmed, that's all your rubbish, glorious Heruka will become manifest. Okay, now don't worry too much about it. I just want to get, thanks, Boone. What he's saying here is emptiness and luminosity. What is draw war law? Draw war law is from the wrathful emanation of Guru Rinpoche's Dorje Drolo. If you see him in the text, you'll see he's got this wrathful emanation called Dorje Drolo that cuts all the rubbish. And when you say to me, but what are these wrathful forms about? These wrathful forms are the beautiful natures of the pure beings. But when they come in wrathful form, they come to clap you, to say, enough of all your bullshit, come on, get on with it, move on with it. They give you a real clap. Okay, so these, I always say good morning to all the wrathful deities within my own self. It's good to know them, because some of them are as ugly as anything. If you saw them in the middle of the night, you'd freak out, okay? But they are beautiful. And you've got to learn to see through them, just as you've got to learn to see through what people do to you, to see the beauty and the real motivation behind it. So draw war law is this wrathful emanation. And its open luminosity is the nature of Dorje Draw or Draw Law. The open luminosity that I've been talking about is his nature. Luminosity is the creative aspect, the Sambhokakaya aspect, spontaneously self-emergent, beautiful displays from the essence, whereas the empty aspect of pristine awareness is Dharmakaya. So you've got this empty aspect, Dharmakaya, and out of it comes this exquisite Sambhokakaya. And if you could see the world, you'd see that the whole world would be a pure land. We can't see it because all we've got is our human, untrained mind looking at everything. So he says your consciousness has two distinctive, defining characteristics, your pure consciousness. Number one, luminosity. Write these two things down. Luminosity, which means absolutely exquisite, clear, beautiful colors, and then it becomes pure lands. And the second aspect is cognizance, spelled with a Z, cognizance. Okay. The luminosity of your own awareness manifests all the appearances. Okay. This luminosity is so beautiful. It also gives rise to and manifests as the creativity of the human mind. So if you look at music, ingenious ideas, literature, art, technology, and science, it's all creativity. It all comes from the luminosity. Last night, I was watching the news for 5 minutes and I couldn't stand it anymore. And then I went on to BBC and they were doing a program on, what's her name again? Conchita. Oh, she's a beautiful opera star. I can't think of her name. She's absolutely exquisite. It's quite a complicated Italian name. And they were showing the life story of this woman who had a voice like a nightingale, and she was one of these women who engaged the whole orchestra with her singing. So the pianist said, I've never worked with a woman like that. When I do a note, she says, and she reaches out her hand. She was involved. So when they were having rehearsals, the whole orchestra, if you get to see it, what is her name? I'll think of her name in a minute. She's a beautiful opera singer, and then you can Google and maybe go onto it. But she engaged everyone. So when they were doing their rehearsals, it was such fun. Everybody laughed. Everybody was engaged with her beautiful personality. Now that is luminosity. That is luminosity, that she's got this gift. but not only the gift of beautiful singing, she also has the gift of touching the hearts of everyone. And I thought, oh my God, she must be such a special woman, not only because of her singing, but a beautiful woman. So the luminosity from pristine awareness can also give rise to samsaric things they're not really samsaric ugly things, but music, literature, art, technology, because you are able to access the pristine awareness to bring to the planet, as Tai Situ was saying, the stuff that the planet needs. You are free to bring it through. And he says, the luminosity illuminates and makes manifest appearance, while the cognizance of your own consciousness right now is that which enables you to know. You know. You got to know. When I'm teaching you now, I want you to know. I want you to feel it in your blood, not just listen to blah, blah, blah from old Melanie. Okay, just try and feel it in your own selves. It's very important, okay? And those two terms, luminosity and cognizance, are inseparable. Okay, they're absolutely inseparable. This refers to the nature of mind of all Buddhas, which is the nature of all meditative deities, lamas, dakinis. You only need to search within your own self. Now, I just want to give you a little more teaching, then we'll do a lovely meditation. But please ask your questions or give your statements, no matter how you think, oh, I can't say it. Please do me a favor and ask and share, because I want you with this teaching. I don't want you to hear my blah, 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 blah. I want you to feel this in your blood, to feel it in your being, to know that you have that subtle body inside that can change everything. Okay, to identify the view of the nature of existence, it's necessary to examine your different levels of consciousness. First, the human conceptual consciousness. It's got 8 forms. I'm not going into it in detail. That's our most coarse consciousness, and we use it all day, every day. And all our negative behavior comes out of the human conceptual consciousness. Then you go deeper, and then you go to the substrate or alaya consciousness. Now that consciousness is much more subtle than the human consciousness. It's much more subtle. And why is it more subtle? In that consciousness are all your imprints from all your lifetimes. Your karmic imprints are in the alaya consciousness, okay? So that the alaya consciousness from the subtle level then manifests on the human level. So if you were in touch with your imprints, your subtle imprints, you could then start clearing them. For example, what I'm going to teach in the illness is that the medicine Buddha heals all those imprints, but we're going to a level of more subtlety. Okay. Now, if you go deeper to a much more very subtle consciousness, that's your primordial consciousness or your pristine awareness. It's very subtle, and whatever flows from it when you awaken, it is the base, now listen carefully, of samsara and nirvana. Whereas the alaya or substrate consciousness, which is subtle, is the basis only of samsara. Now figure this out and ponder it, okay? Because in the book of Dudjom Rinpoche's view, from his text, he says, from that same verse that I read you now, Draw a Law, he explains that the substrate consciousness is the basis out of which samsara arises, because everything in your imprints is what causes it to arise in this world, okay? And he says, but out of samsara arises, but not nirvana, not the pure stuff. The pure stuff only arises from the pristine awareness, okay? He says we have to identify with the self-emergent pristine awareness out of which everything in samsara and nirvana arises. It's the actual nature of your mind. He says the substrate, the alaya consciousness, sometimes called the kunzi in Sanskrit, is the basis. No, the alaya is in Sanskrit, kunzi is in Tibetan, is the basis of everything, the foundation, the ground, the source in samsara. Now I'm going to just take you into a little further shock, okay? So since I've been taking you into shocking, I'm taking you another little further into shock, okay? It's actually the basis of your samsara, your own samsara. It moves with you from life to life, but it only gives the impression of moving. It doesn't really move. It just creates the impression that it's going with you from life to life. In fact, life to life is just an impression in your mind. There's an illusion of movement, but with pristine awareness, there isn't even an illusion of movement. It transcends coming and going. No concepts in pristine awareness. He says, we have a lying conviction that we are a sentient being. It's a lie. It's a lie, okay? The basis of our certainty consists solely of delusive experiences. We are hoodwinked by the delusional beliefs of materialism, looking to the brain to tell us everything we know. Now think of AI. Because do you want to say something, Bets? Coming to you now if you want. Oh, think of AI. I mean, sometimes I come across, when I'm doing something, I come across a beautiful video of something or another, like I sent to you that time, Edith, of this beautiful pianist or whatever it was, I can't remember. And then underneath the video, it says, this has been created by AI. Now, I've watched the 20 minutes or the 25 minutes, and it's created by AI. And then I go, oh my God, it isn't even real. It's just a creation. And why did they do it? They did it because actually it does touch people's hearts. So maybe it's a way of opening your heart. Maybe it's, what's it for? I don't know. But they do all these videos that AI creates and they're not true. But then, is this life true? If I've got a lying conviction that I'm a sentient being, so what's the difference between whether it is real or it isn't real? It's all stories anyway. I'm really getting bad now. Okay. When you understand this, there was never a point at which you became a sentient being. You've always been the purity of pristine awareness and dharmakaya. You need a spacious experience, a gap, to understand this. So what I've taken from Dudjom Rinpoche's illuminating offering for us, if it changes even a tiny feeling, we could start behaving as a Buddha would until it flows naturally. Now we're going to do meditation, but we're first going to listen to Nosho Kempo's little letter that he wrote his little mummy in Tibet, okay, because I think this explains it much better than I can. And challenge, guys, ask. You know what you don't understand and you don't accept. This is difficult. It's difficult to know that the alaya consciousness, I never thought of it as just creating samsara, but it only creates samsara. So do I want to spend my whole life clearing the imprints? Yeah, I have to, but do I want to spend my whole life clearing the imprint? Maybe if I just became the medicine Buddha, automatically I would clear all the imprints anyway, in a quick way. Look, I'm being very challenging today. Okay, Diana, you may think, oi, what am I doing here? But it's important.
I must tell you, I'm sort of thinking, okay, is everything so bad about our samsaric existence that we spend our lives trying to escape from it? So I'm having a little bit of a sort of existential crisis about that right now.
Very good. I'm so glad, because you know why? I'm so glad you're bringing that up. That's why I love having you in a group. Just mute yourself, so otherwise it goes on to you. You know what? What you're saying is amazing. And no, samsaric existence isn't poison. If we weren't in samsaric existence, we wouldn't even be spending a Monday morning doing this. We would be steeped down in samsara and never have time to do this. No, the beautiful creative things what I watched in this woman are absolutely exquisite. But what about the lies? What about the imprints? What about what Taisito was saying about a person who really, 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 influences other people with their charisma, and people are so desperate they follow? No, that is not true. There is a lot of beautiful, beautiful things in samsara, and if we're living a life, a pure life, and helping a lot of people around us, that is exquisite. Okay, but that exquisite part comes from pristine awareness, from the nature of mind. Usually the Allah, but the Allah, look, if you think about it, the Allah has also got some beautiful imprints.
Because I mean, I've actually been watching sort of almost addict like these wonderful 19 men who are walking across America.
Yeah, I've been trying to.
When I look at what they're doing, expecting nothing except perhaps a bowl of food at the end of the day. That's it. They're walking more than 2,000 miles.
Amazing.
They're not proselytizing. They're not doing anything. The reactions have been absolutely mind-boggling. There have been so many people. And
yeah.
I'll send you a couple of the ones that I found.
No, but they're on Facebook, or like what David sent me, and I don't have Facebook, so you've got to send me.
I don't have Facebook either, so I'll find it on YouTube for you. But I mean, just that these men have elected to walk with their dog, and all they're doing is they're walking for peace. That's it. And what they've achieved and what they are achieving is just absolutely beyond conception. It just is
wonderful. That doesn't mean samsara is bad. That's what I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
It's just the negativity of samsara. Okay, it's really important.
Thank you.
Honestly. So now I want to just read you this, and then let's go straight on. Or if any of you see what Diana's bringing up is so important, bring it up, throw it out. Don't just take this, because then you'll go back to doing what you're doing. So he said, I wrote the Mirror of Essential Points when I was in Dordogne, after being in France for 5 or 6 years, to tell my devoted mother what was happening to her one little wandering child. This is his mother in Tibet, who had come to foreign lands where people fly in the sky in silver birds and travel under the earth and under the sea in powerful machines, where there are so many different colors and experiences of all kinds, where there are all kinds of men and women of different colors, big and small. Some wear hundreds of clothes as adornments on their body, and others have the scantiest of clothes, or walk nude at the seaside, while I myself wander around with nothing but old orange wraps and a straw hat to shield my bald, wrinkled head from the sun, where there are machines hundreds of trees high, buildings which reach down hundreds of meters below the earth, and people traveling in fast trains, supersonic airplanes, in nuclear submarines, where scientists can seem to have control over even the sunrise and moonrise. You could just see his mother with her eyes wide open, reading about this, her son's experience, and can play with the 5 elements: air, water, fire, wind, and space. like gods, like magicians, flying to the moon and heading even toward the sun, where there are people who are rich beyond belief and people who are poor beyond assistance. Now we come to the important part. People who have so many different dream-like experiences, the likes of which one has never heard or dreamed of, nor would be likely to believe in Tibet, and who seem to be lost in the darkness of delusion, just like so many in Tibet and India, with or without material benefits, still thirsting for peace, contentment, and fulfillment, lacking spiritual peace and realization. I've never seen so many kinds of displays that one could never possibly describe them all. But if you see this clearly and you have a good look at it, all these incredible, miraculous displays are just the dreamlike display of one's own mind. It's just a matter of one's perception, how one experiences things. Just as a glass of water might seem very different to a small fish who could live in it as a home than we humans. No matter how amazing it is, when one recognizes everything as the display or projection of one's own mind, when we see that all perceptions depend on one's own karma, then one is no longer amazed, because one understands how things actually work and how they are. And we can live harmoniously and appreciate everything just as it is. There are so many things to see, but what are they really? It's like a dream, a mirage, an illusion, a magician's hallucination. Some dreams last 100 years and then dissolve. Some dreams last 1 minute or 1 hour and then dissolve. Others take concrete form and seem to last longer before dispersing. Everything is ultimately resolved in the absolute nature. Within such dreamlike phenomena, what is there to adopt or cling to? What is there to judge? What is there to reject or abandon? There is nothing to either pick up or put down. When you awaken, when you recognize the dreamlike nature of appearance, what is there to do? It's just a dream. So what? There's nothing more to do about it other than to know the dreamer, the knower. Who is dreaming anyway? It's, I found this, I picked up this also in all my notes. I mean, it's an unbelievable thing, and it makes you start pondering everything. Anyone want to say anything? We're going to just do a little meditation. It's really phenomenal, but it takes your life and turns it upside down. It's really important. And I was sitting with some people at lunch yesterday, and this girl brought up a particular guy that I remembered long ago having in counseling. So as she was talking about him, I thought, I don't even remember what his problem was. I don't remember how it was to have him and what I was doing with him. I was just listening to her. And I thought, how many other things don't I remember? And Joss says, I can't believe you don't remember this. I can't believe you don't remember that. And I go, Joss, I've got a process in me. I'm a bit like a computer. I said, I've seen so many hundreds of people over the years and everything. I just delete them when they go out of my mind because I can't keep it. I said, when we're traveling, you take in every single statue. You 20 years later can describe to people what we did, what hotel we stayed in, and I haven't a clue. I've just deleted that long ago to make space for more things. And then I could be an idiot because when people stand in front of me, it's funny because they say, hi, Melanie, do you remember me and everything? And I don't know anything. And then I ponder and ponder and ponder, and I think it takes it from the clouds somewhere. And after a few minutes, I start remembering, because now it's relevant, you know, otherwise I haven't a clue. Let's do one of his meditations, everybody. Don't know if you can hear this or not, Ika, but we'll try. Can you hear? Okay. Let's do one of Alan Wallace's, one of his, oh shoot, where was it? Oh, the thing fell out. Sorry, everybody. What was I going to do? Oh, shoot. I had it all. Okay, so just breathe in and breathe out, everybody. Let me see if it's this. Okay. So he called this, here it is, Vipassana, which is looking at the mind, as the prelude, the thing before authentic open presence. So he says, while in a comfortable posture, strike the 3 vital points of your body, speech, and mind. Very briefly and gently, calm the turbulence of your conceptual mind by resting in the stillness of awareness and counting 7 breaths, 1 count for the full cycle of the respiration. 7 breaths, everybody. In between the counts, let your mind be quiet. As far as possible, have just 7 thoughts during the 7 cycles of respiration, beginning with thinking the number 1 up to the number 7. That's all. So finish your breaths counting. With your gaze resting vacantly in the space in front of you, your eyes soft and unfocused, not closed, soft and unfocused, your mind utterly at rest, and your awareness resting right where it is. Engage in the first practice that Dudjom Rinpoche teaches in the context of shamatha. Simply rest in the self-knowing flow of awareness without being distracted by appearances, thoughts, and so on, and without grasping onto or identifying with any mental impulse. Rest in the utter simplicity of the sheer luminosity and cognizance of your own awareness. Luminosity and cognizance, knowing and the beautiful luminousness. While resting continuously in awareness, open all of the 6 doors of perception. Let the light of awareness flow out unimpededly in all directions. Just be aware of all manner of appearances, sensory appearances from the surrounding world, mental appearances of thought, images, and so on. Just see them for what they are. See them nakedly without projecting upon them any concepts and without appropriating or making them solid. See all these appearances for what they are. They appear, but they are not really there. They are neither here nor there. They are just where they are. See them as empty, as mere appearances all the way through. These sensory and mental appearances come and go as movements of the mind. Observe all these movements, the comings and goings of appearances, from the stillness of your awareness. Stillness of your awareness. As the Buddha said to Bahia, recorded in the Pali Canon, in the seen, let there only be the seen. In the heard, let there be only the heard. In the tactilely sensed, let there be only the tactile sense. And in the mentally perceived, let there be only the mentally perceived. Likewise, see all appearances nakedly, without elaborations, just as they are. I often look out into the sky from my room, and I see the breeze in the tree, and I see, birds flying, and I think it's just as it is. Nothing to be done, nowhere to go, just as it is. All around you is a field of emptiness. Not a nihilistic emptiness, it is filled with possibilities. It is up to you what you observe, how you designate what you observe, and thereby how you actualize the world around you. Ultimately, it is your mind that constructs your experience of the world that you inhabit. Now, turn your awareness inward upon the movements of your own mind. So watch the difference. You've been looking at the appearances, not judging them, Now, turn it inside, almost into your heart, so you can see your own mind. Briefly examine where these movements, thoughts, desires, and so on originate. Look deeply in your heart. Different people think they originate in different places. Where are they located and where do they go? In observing nakedly the activities of the mind, do not identify with, solidify, or appropriate them. Practicing in this way is the direct path for freeing your mind, freeing yourself from the bondage of your mind. Become lucid with respect to your mind, and you can thus become fearless and invulnerable with respect to your mind. Simply know it as it is, just the way it is. Then turn your awareness increasingly more inward. Withdraw from the apprehended mind and into the mind that is apprehending, the mind that observes, meditates, and does all manner of things. Invert your awareness right in upon the mind that is turning inward on itself, the mind that is the agent, and see what you see. Does it have any characteristic that you can identify? From moment to moment, as it arises and passes, can you see where it comes from, where it is located, and where it goes? There must be a mind. Otherwise, you'd be mindless and unable to meditate. Yet the mind is not static and unchanging. Rest contentedly in that non-finding, in that open space with nothing apprehended and no apprehended. Just let it be. Be content in that utter simplicity. During the intervals between when your thoughts arise, rest in the stillness that is unelaborated awareness. Continue to rest there when thoughts arise without allowing these thoughts to cause your awareness to waver even the slightest bit. See these thoughts and any other appearances as expressions of your own awareness, as not existing by their own nature, as indeterminate and neither existing nor non-existing, in utter and sublime stillness, with all the sense doors open, remaining attentive, discerning, and non-conceptual. View how all appearances are empty. The mind is empty. Rest in this open space that is permeated by the luminosity of awareness, this space of infinite potential and possibilities, where all that is actualized consists of expression of your own awareness. Relax right there, quietly, without doing anything at all. We bring this meditation to a close by dedicating the merit in accordance with the prayers of all the bodhisattvas, so that you may achieve perfect awakening in order to tirelessly help others to do the same. So don't move. I'm just going to dedicate to all sentient beings, dedicating to all those who are fighting for freedom, to all those who are in the wars, to all those who are going through the most terrible things. If only they can just see that nothing is real. It's all an illusion, a temporary drama. And if there can be any merit from these teachings, may they all benefit from it. Sunam die tamche zibane topne nepe dranam pamshene jegana chibala dopaye sipe sole doadro warsho. So if anybody wants to ask me anything, please stay. I'm here.